Join me inside my writing yurt. Come on. Thank you so much for joining me in my cozy writing yurt for our first edition of Ask Cozy Grammar. This is a chance for you to ask any questions you might have about grammar, punctuation, spelling, or essay writing, or writing more generally. It's a chance to supplement our free and paid courses with a chance to interact with me directly and ask your specific questions. Many of these questions, of course, we have tried to anticipate in putting the courses together. But sometimes there's a question that we haven't thought of. So it's really a gift to us when you join these calls and you share your questions with us. And so without any further ado, I want to jump right in and get started. We have a wonderful question. The question is this: how do we grow our children's writing habit? Especially for students who might be in the elementary level and who might be learning English as a second or as a foreign language. And of course, these programs usually have grammar and vocabulary and spelling, but how do we encourage students to love writing? And I thought about this question, and there's 5 things that occurred to me. And the first, and perhaps most important, is to encourage the habit of reading out loud together. With younger students, this might be reading a story to students, sitting next to them or sitting in a circle. There is something really beautiful and magical and wonderful about hearing a story read to you, even if you're maybe beyond the age when you're supposed to be having stories read to you. That's when we can really experience the magic of stories and the way that they can weave a world for us and take us through the lives of characters. So that would be my first suggestion. The second suggestion comes off of that, which is to then explore making up stories spontaneously, out loud. One way I encourage people to do this is if you're working with a group of students, you can have them sit in a circle and you can find a nice stone. And whoever has the stone gets to start telling a story. And somebody else might have a bell. And whenever they ring the bell, the person holding the stone passes it to the next person, the person to their right, for instance. And that person has to pick up telling the story. Now, the person ringing the bell might ring the bell between sentences, or maybe even right in the middle of a sentence. For instance, somebody might be holding the stone and saying, and then as the tiger came closer and closer to him, somebody might ring the bell, you pass the stone on to the next person, and the next person has to carry that sentence and the story forward and see where the story might go. The idea is to have the stone go all the way around the circle so that you can and get to the end of the story by the time the stone comes to the end of the circle. And then you've created a story together out of our own collective imagination. This can be a fun way to get people into the excitement of creating their own stories spontaneously without having to think about it too much. And this leads to the third step, which is to start writing down some of these stories. At first, you might write down stories that people have created together in a group. But then you also might have students get together in pairs. Or if you're working one-on-one, you have a student just working with a student and you have them make up a story spontaneously. And the idea is to not think about it too much. The idea is to simply run with whatever ideas occur to you in the moment. And then once they have that story, then they can write it down so that we start to create a link between the telling of a story out loud and the writing of a story on paper. This is the important link to establish. Then there's 2 more suggestions I have that follow on this third one. One is that after you've written the story, after you've written a draft of the story, that's not the end. Just as a writer who writes a story or a novel then gets it published, it's important to take students through the process of making their work shareable, making their work public. So for instance, after writing a story, I would have the student write the story again, but then think about how do you want to present it on the page. Maybe you want to use special colors for the words. Maybe you want to illustrate the story with some drawings here and there. Let students become as creative as they can be in presenting their story. In fact, because this is National Poetry Month, we've been sharing a poem a day on our Facebook page, on Twitter, and on Instagram, stories that were written in a project uh, that was done by friends of ours in the Tukwila School District here in Washington State. Stories of Arrival is the name of that project. And it's working with recent immigrants and refugees in writing poetry in English. And for each of these poems, they've created these beautiful broadsides that some of these students have illustrated themselves. Some have worked with an artist that was part of the program to illustrate them. And so these poems are being presented in a very beautiful way. And this is a wonderful example of how you can use the presentation of a piece of writing to foster a kind of excitement, both in the student and in those with whom who get to interact with that piece of writing. And so the fifth piece, of course, is to share the piece of writing. And it can be as small as sharing it with one other person that the student loves or trusts or wants to share things with. It might be sharing the story with the group that you're working with. It can be any number of ways. But the idea is to take the story from spontaneous composition, freewheeling, play of the imagination, all the way through presenting it and then sharing it with other people. And if you take students through this entire process, I think you'll find that the love of writing and the excitement about writing develops quite naturally and quite beautifully. That's what my experience suggests to me about how to explore the growing of writing habits among children.